Dennis Rader was a loving husband and father to two kids. Him and his family lived in Wichita, Kansas. He was a serial killer between the years of 1974 to 1990. Actually, technically, 1991. Let's get into it. So, I'm actually reading a book by his daughter, Carrie Rawson. It's called A Serial Killer's Daughter. It's a little water damaged, but still readable. I knew I was going to do a BTK episode before picking up that book, but I thought I would get more into his life a little bit. Dennis Rader was called the BTK killer because he would bind, torture, kill. That's what he would do to his victims. His case begins with the Otero family in early 1974. He admitted to stalking the family 2 months prior when he spotted Julie Otero leaving to take her children to school. He officially stalked the family for 2 weeks. On the morning of the murders in early 1974, he scaled a fence and he cut the phone lines when he was in the backyard. It was after this that Joey Otero was letting the dog into the backyard when Rader held him at gunpoint and forced himself into the house. Initially, the family thought he was pulling a prank. Rader asserted that he wasn't joking. His pistol was in fact loaded with hollow point bullets. He tied up the family with rope he had prepared ahead of time. Joseph Otero and Joey Otero were on the floor, and Julie and Josie Otero were on the bed. He bound up the whole family together in one room, and Rader said that the family began complaining of problems related to poor blood circulation. Joseph complained of a cracked rib, so Rader put a pillow under him. Rader later stated that it was around this time that he decided to kill them. He put a bag over Joseph's head and suffocated him. He then strangled Julie with a rope. She had regained consciousness and pleaded for him to spare her children's lives, and he then really did kill her. I'm not actually sure if I can say what he did to the youngest child, Josephine Otero, on here, but I'll do it anyway. After her whole family was murdered, he took her down to a basement and tied her up, basically hanging her, and he masturbated watching her struggle, basically. Watching her die. This man had a daughter and a wife, by the way. It's just f***ing sick. He plans his next murder for months against Catherine Bright, who is 21. Dennis Rader broke into the home of Catherine Bright in April of 1974. He told Catherine and her brother, who she was living with at the time, Kevin, who was 19, that he was a wanted man from California and needed money and food. He forced Kevin to tie Catherine up into a chair. Rader then tied up Kevin to a bedpost in the other room. Rader turned on the stereo system in the living room to drown out any signs of struggle, which he claimed to learn about in a detective magazine. Rader returned to the bedroom where Kevin was restrained to strangle him, but Bright had freed himself. He then pulled his firearm and a struggle ensued, during which Rader shot Kevin in the forehead. He then attempted to strangle Kevin again, resulting in a similar struggle in which he fired 2 more shots, one landing just above Kevin's mouth and the other grazing him. Kevin played dead until Rader left the room, then ran from the house. He flagged down neighbors who took him to the hospital and called police. When Rader entered her room, Catherine asked about the gunshots. Rader told Catherine that he had shot her brother, at which point she fought back. Rader resorted to stabbing her repeatedly in the area under her ribcage. Rader heard Kevin call for help during the struggle, and once he thought Catherine was dead, he grabbed her keys, ran outside, and tried unsuccessfully to start her truck. When it did not start, ran to his car, which was parked at Wichita State University. Catherine was alive when police arrived at her house, holding a telephone in her hands but partially verbally unresponsive. Catherine Bright sadly died from strangulation and multiple stab wounds when she was in emergency surgery. Years went by between the Bright murders and his next victim, 3 years to be exact. On March 17, 1977, Rader targeted Shirley Relford. Rader had a different victim planned for the day, but the victim was not home. He was frustrated by this and decided to find a random person to kill instead. While looking for a potential victim, he came across Shirley's son, Steve, who was 6 years old. Rader approached Steve, claiming to be a detective. Rader showed Steve a photo of his wife and daughter, as in Rader's wife and his daughter. 6-year-old Steve mistakenly identified the 2 women in the photo as his own mother and sister. Dennis Rader followed Steve back to his household. Rader had asked Shirley if she could identify the same photo. During this interaction, Rader pulled a gun on her. and forced his way into the home. He claimed he was a wanted man, the exact same story he gave to the Brights, and that they were being robbed. He had attempted to tie up the 3 Relford children, but struggled to do so, leading him to force the children into a bathroom which he barricaded with Shirley's assistance. He reported giving the kids toys and supplies to keep them comfortable. Oh, how sweet of you. While he murdered their mother. He threatened to shoot the children if they broke free. After this, Rader took Shirley to the rear bedroom. Shirley vomited before being tied to her bedpost by her legs and handcuffed. Shirley was sick and had asked for water, and Dennis Rader did give it to her and then proceeded to strangle her. He later confessed that he had intended to eventually kill the children in the bathroom. However, the family phone rang and one of the children shouted that it was someone who would be visiting shortly, so he fled the home. Later, after the murder of Shirley Relford, he had begun to target another woman named Nancy Fox. She was 25 years old and he had begun stalking her for months. On December 8th, 1977, he had broken into Fox's home through a back window, discovering that she wasn't home. After some time, Fox had returned and began screaming at Rader to leave her house and that she was going to call the police. He had informed her that her phone lines were cut and she would not be able to make any calls. He did tell her that he intended to restrain her, take photographs of her, and rape her. He did, however, allow her to smoke a cigarette before doing so. Rader allowed Fox to go to the bathroom after she assured him that she could not escape. He had then begun to undress and ordered her to lie down when she emerged from the bathroom. She resisted when Rader tried to remove her remaining clothing. He began putting handcuffs on her, what she protested and questioned the need for. Rader told her, "That's part of my deal. I gotta have them or it won't work." He then began to crawl on top of Fox and wrapped his belt around her neck. He would repeatedly loosen and tighten the belt, allowing her to come close to unconsciousness and then bring her back before eventually killing her. Around this same time, Rader had also intended to kill others, such as Anna Williams, who was 63, who in 1979 escaped death by returning home much later than expected. He explained during his confession that he had become obsessed with Williams and was absolutely livid when she evaded him. He recalled spending hours waiting at the Williams' home, but becoming impatient and leaving when she did not return from visiting friends. In October of 1974, Rader sent a letter to the Wichita Eagle using the pseudonym BTK, taking responsibility for the Otero murders and offering details about the crime not previously made public. He said, "I did it by myself and with no one's help," referring to 3 brothers in psychiatric care who had falsely confessed to the Otero murders the month prior. On December 9th, 1977, one day after he killed Fox, Rader had called the police from a payphone and told them that they would find Fox's body at her home. The call was recorded and released to the larger public in 1979, sparking over 100 tips, albeit none were promising. On January 31st, 1978, Rader had sent a letter to the classified advertising department in Wichita. It contained a poem that began with Shirley Locks, followed by a detailed description of Shirley Relford's murder. During his cooling off periods between murders, Rader would take pictures of himself wearing women's clothes and a female mask while bound. Oh my god. Okay, Ed Gein. He later admitted that he was pretending to be his victims as part of his sexual fantasy. Also, during this period, Rader committed numerous burglaries, mostly stealing underwear, jewelry, and money. He kept his proclivities well hidden and was widely regarded in his community as normal, polite, and well-mannered. He was a member of Christ Lutheran Church, fucking crazy, and in January 2005 was elected president of the church council. He was also a Cub Scout leader. Serial killer, by the way. Neighbors had described Rader as overzealous and extremely strict. One neighbor had recalled observing Rader in their front lawn with a tape measure to determine if their grass was too long. Another claimed they had spotted Rader in their adjoining backyards filming their house, and a female neighbor complained that Rader killed her dog for no reason. Alright. Rader's neighbors recalled him taking a special pleasure in bullying and harassing single women. So there's just red flags all around. Is what I'm hearing. Red flags all around, and no one thought to look into this guy. 2 women he stalked in the 1980s and one whom he stalked in the 1990s filed restraining orders against him. One of these women also changed her address to avoid him. He had begun stalking Maureen Hedge, aged 53, for some time and had given her the name Project Cookie. That was another thing. He did like making them into projects. She lived only a few houses up from Rader, and he selected her just to see if he could murder one of his neighbors and get away with it. Rader was attending a Cub Scouts outing on April 27, 1985, the night of the murder. He had faked a headache, blaming the rainy and muddy weather, and said he was going to bed early. He quietly left and drove to a deserted area where he quickly changed out of his Cub Scouts attire. He then drove to a bowling alley across the street from Brittany Center at 21st Street in Woodlawn. He walked in, ordered a beer, swished it in his mouth, and splashed it on his face and clothes. He then called a taxi using a fake, slurred, drunk voice. He was dropped off one street down from his and Hedges Street. Rader cut the phone line to Hedges' home and managed to break into the home without damaging it. He then hid in a closet. After he was confident that Hedge was in bed, he crept out of the closet and quickly flipped on the bathroom light switch. Rader subdued and handcuffed Hedge before strangling her to death. After finding her car keys and collecting mementos, Rader stripped Hedge and dragged her out to her car. He drove her to the Christ Lutheran Church, where he was a longtime member and key holder. Are we kidding? He dragged Hedges' body into the building and covered the windows before turning on the lights, ensuring no light would be visible from the outside. He then began positioning the body in the church and taking photographs of the corpse. As daylight began approaching, Rader cleaned the scene, removed the garbage bags off the windows, turned off the lights, and returned the body to the trunk. So did he take her there to just take photos of her? Rader drove a little distance away and dumped Hedges' nude body in a remote ditch and covered her with brush. At this time, Rader was working for ADT and was out working when he saw Vicky Lynn Vigurla, age 28, get into her car. He stalked her for a little bit before learning she played piano after hearing her playing it when prowling around outside her house. He referred to her as Project Piano. On December 16, 1986, Rader used one of the company's hard hats in a Southwest Bell manual to act as a repairman or technician for the telephone company. Rader first gained entry into Vigurla's neighbor's house and pretended to do telephone work before leaving and knocking on the Vigurla's door. He had done this to make her less suspicious. Rader told Vigurla he had to check the telephone terminals. Vigurla directed him to the phone near the dining room table. Rader made small talk with Vigurla as he pretended to check the phone. After declaring the phone line looked okay, Rader had pulled a gun on Vigurla and instructed her to go into the bedroom. Vigurla told Rader that her husband would be home soon, but he persisted. Rader forced her into the bedroom, where Vigurla broke free and fought back. The struggle upset the dogs, who began barking. He grew nervous because the windows were open. He did not know when Vigurla's husband would be home. Rader did not have much time, but he took pictures after he killed her for sexual purposes. He had begun to stalk Dolores Davis, age 62, and she did not live far from him. He codenamed her Davis Project Dockside because of the dog kennels north of her home. On January 18, 1991, the trappers were having their annual Dead of Winter outing at Harvey County Park West. Rader went to the park and set up camp before fabricating a story and leaving. It was between 10:30 p.m. and 11 p.m. when Rader arrived at the Davis home. He could see Davis reading through the window blinds. He waited until the lights had been out for a few minutes, then threw a cinder block through the sliding glass door. She ran out of her bedroom yelling, and Rader used his wanted-man ruse on her. She had begun to beg for her life, prompting Rader to strangle her with the pantyhose. He initially was going to stay and take photos with the body, but Davis had lied to him and said that somebody was coming home soon, forcing him to leave sooner than he had planned. Davis was discovered on February 1st, 1991 by a 15-year-old boy. Rader was then arrested while driving near his home in Park City on February 25, 2005. An officer had asked him, "Mr. Rader, do you know why you're going downtown?" And Rader replied, "Oh, I have suspicions." Officers from the Wichita Police Kansas Bureau of Investigation and FBI and ATF searched Rader's home and vehicle, seizing evidence including computer equipment, a pair of black pantyhose retrieved from a shed, and a cylindrical container. Christ Lutheran Church, Rader's office, and the main branch of the Park City Library were also searched. At a press conference the next morning, Wichita Police Chief Norman Williams had announced, "The bottom line, BTK is arrested." On February 28, 2005, he was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. On March 1st, Rader's bail was set at $10 million, and a public defender was appointed to represent him. On May 3rd, the judge entered not guilty pleas on Rader's behalf, as Rader did not speak on his arraignment. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years. Now for his personal life. Dennis Lynn Rader was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas on March 9th, 1945. He was the oldest of 4 sons, and his parents were bookkeeper Dorothea May Rader and Kansas gas service worker and former U.S. Marine William Elvin Rader. His parents were members of the Zion Lutheran Church in Pittsburgh, where Rader was baptized. Both of his parents worked long hours and paid little attention to their children at home, and in later years, Rader said he felt neglected. His father was described as strict and God-fearing, but he wasn't abusive. Growing up in Wichita, Rader had an interest in novels, comic books, fishing, and Cub Scouting. From a young age, however, he also harbored sadistic sexual fantasies about torturing trapped and helpless women. He had exhibited signs of zoosadism by torturing, killing, and hanging small animals. He acted out sexual fantasies for voyeurism, autoerotic asphyxiation, and cross-dressing, often spying on female neighbors while dressing in women's clothing, including women's underwear that he had stolen. He also masturbated with ropes or other bindings around his arms and neck. You know, I don't have anything to say about that. After graduating in 1963, he attended Kansas Wesleyan University, where he received only mediocre grades and dropped out after 1 year. Okay, so you're a serial killer and you're fucking stupid. And you torture children and you torture animals. I fucking hate this guy. He had joined the United States Air Force. Oh, good. He was also a veteran. That's awesome. So many serial killers were active members of the military at one point. It really makes you think. Really makes you think. He later credited the Air Force for teaching him knowledge about sex. Oh, thanks, Air Force. He subsequently served in the Air Force Reserve Command until June 20th, 1972. He had then attended Wichita State University and graduated in 1979 with a Bachelor of Science degree, majoring in Administration of Justice. Rader initially worked in the meat department of an IGA supermarket where his mother was employed as a bookkeeper. From mid-1972 to mid-1973, he worked as an assembler for Coleman, where 2 of his victims, Julie Otero and Catherine Bright, also had worked. On May 22nd, 1971, Rader married Paula Dietz, a secretary for the American Legion, in a ceremony held at Christ Lutheran Church. They had 2 children, Carrie and Brian. On July 26, 2005, after Rader's arrest, Dietz was granted an emergency divorce, waiving the normal 60-day waiting period. All of the crimes were committed while Rader was married, although neither Dietz nor her children suspected anything was amiss. So scary about Dennis Rader and the BTK case in particular is he was living like a double life. Like he was like a completely regular ass father that served his community, went to church with his family, whatever. In the book that I'm reading, he goes hiking with his kids and his family members. I can't imagine how it would feel for his daughter finding out about all the things that he did to young girls. I mean, that's like that's a nightmare situation. Well, on that very happy note, I have like no energy today, I'm not gonna lie. It's Monday. It's Monday, I gotta go to the gym, I got things to do, and I don't want to do any of it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, follow me elsewhere. And I will see you guys on Thursday or Saturday, or both.